Doesn't even look sure then.
I have just chaired a meeting of the Cabinet where we agreed that the government should call a general election to be held on the 8th of June.
What was she thinking? Do you think it was a mistake now?
No, I think with a good campaign it could have worked. I think the decision to have an election was a rational one, but the campaign simply didn't work. But I did think the country would demand it.
Yeah.
I thought when Mrs May took over, the country would demand an election, and I was then quite surprised
but
when...
they didn't, and they didn't want it.
And they then didn't want it, no.
Everybody was Brenda, wasn't there?
Brenda from Bristol. Indeed.
At this moment of enormous national significance, there should be unity here in Westminster.
That's not gone well, has it?
No.
It will be a choice between strong and stable leadership in the national interest, with me as your Prime Minister, or weak and unstable coalition government led by Jeremy Corbyn.
Foisted by your own petard there.
Well, we have a government that isn't a formal coalition and is reasonably stable.
Reasonably stable. Would you buy a table that was reasonably stable? It's stable. It's a bit wobbly, but it's stable enough for me to meet my dinner.
That rhymes. You're poetic.
I am a poet.
The table that is stable.
I wouldn't buy a reasonably stable table with one leg from Northern Ireland, personally.
Well, you can always put a bit of paper underneath.
Strong and stable, strong and stable, strong and stable, strong and stable government, strong and stable, strong and stable, strong and stable, strong and stable coalition of chaos, coalition of chaos, coalition of chaos, coalition of chaos.
I'm quite pleased that the electorate didn't like this endless sloganeering.
Oh, me too. Let that be the death of it.
Yes, it was very tiresome.
Very. Did you say it? I bet you never said it.
I said it, the only time I said it was going round on election day with a loud hailer. We should have had a positive message to give.
Yeah.
Particularly on Brexit, there's so much positive to say about Brexit. It's a really exciting opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, the jury's out for me on that.
Yeah,
I can see what you're saying.
I don't expect you to agree with me, merely to how you should campaign. The arguments you should have been putting should be positive and uplifting rather than consistently
just like, don't
negative.
go out with him, he's horrible, sort of thing was essentially what was said throughout the campaign. Oh, look at him, he's a baddie.
You always cut through the bluster.
Wow.
The PM seeming as rattled as she ever has been, as you'd expect, having to unpick her top manifesto pledge. Except having changed the policy, Mrs May adamant it was still the same.
Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed.
What did you think of that? You must have thought...
I think that the no change line was the most damaging part of the U-turn. I think it damaged Mrs May's brand, that she is a very trustworthy person, she's a very honest person, she's everything you would expect a vicar's daughter to be. And saying...
Oh, I've met some vicar's daughters, let me tell you.
Well, the vicar's daughters I meet are like Mrs May.
Okay.
Highly respectable and intelligent, capable people. And saying no change when there was obviously a change just didn't sound or look right.
We are saying the Conservatives are on 314. That is down from the 331 David Cameron had at the last election in 2015. Labour is up.
It was a shock. I swerved off the road. I'd already had a long day.
Lovely to see you.
The constant negativity about Jeremy Corbyn, I think people once again...
You'd never be negative about Jeremy Corbyn, would you? You love him dearly. He's one of your favourite people.
I'd never be negative about him.
Does he have your full support?
I wouldn't be orchestratedly negative about him.
Have you withdrawn your vote of no confidence?
I'd withdraw it. But, I'm not going to get the white robes of worship on for anyone, on any side. Oh God, the awkward moment where he get a move. Oh God, I just want to die when I watch it every single time. I saw that at the Lambeth County Show or something this weekend. I saw it on Twitter. Somebody had made a sort of diorama of this exact incident, but out of vegetables. It was brilliant.
Some people have too much time on their hands.
Far too much time on their hands.
Well, we're now seeing Theresa May.
Awful this was.
Are you going to resign, Prime Minister?
Oh God, how horrible.
There will be a hung parliament with the Conservatives losing their majority.
I have just been to see Her Majesty the Queen, and I will now form a government.
She's not going to be betting on the lottery anytime soon. I wonder what the Queen said to her. I'd give some good money. I think that the Queen said, silly woman. What were you thinking?
I think that's very unlikely.
Do you not think? I like to think that the Queen was just like...
I'd be surprised if Her Majesty speaks like that.
No, I mean, obviously, like in her words, but essentially the same thing, like, you know, give her a telling off.
Now let's get to work. I obviously wanted a different result last night.
I'd have loved it if she'd just gone, that didn't go well, did it? And been genuinely, like, honest. Like, you know, I'm still the Prime Minister, but we can all agree that was a cock-up.
She said it wasn't the result that she wanted.
OK, fair.
She
doesn't talk like me.
No. She didn't say mea culpa, mea maxima culpa, which would have been another way of putting it.
I mean, that's how I would normally say it.
The sums that I have seen that they propose to demand from this country seem to me to be extortionate, and I think to go whistle is an entirely appropriate expression.
I thought he was talking about the DUP.
No, Boris is right, and they should whistle if they think they're going to get 100 billion. There may well be a financial element to the deal. That may be a rational thing,
350
thing
million
to do.
For the NHS.
Yes, I want you to have your 350 million for the NHS.
I'm waiting for that.
I'm very
My
much
weekly sum.
I'm very much in favour of that. Not your personal bank account.
What?
I'm sorry about that.
I knew the campaign wasn't going perfectly, but still the messages I was getting from people I was speaking to.
Speak to the wrong people, won't you?
Devastated enough to shed a tear?
Yes, a little tear.
Oh God, it's sort of painful to watch her having to admit that she shed a tear. Not because there's anything wrong with her shedding a tear. I would have shed loads. But just like she obviously finds it really difficult.
I admire the British stiff upper lip. I think Mrs May is marvellous in this context, and that the difficulty of admitting to it shows how human she is.
If she'd used her emotions for political advantage, she might have had a different result.
That may be true. But I
prefer keen on that.
I prefer the phlegmatic British approach of applying a little starch to her upper lip and carrying on regardless.
You see, I like to make people feel something.
I know, but
I'm all about the feels.
Yes. And that's why you have a majority of
30,000,
40,000, 100,000, vast majority.
Touchy-feely.
Everything will calm down. We'll come back in September and we will look back at the heat of summer and think that, goodness, Mrs May is back to being strong and stable, to coin a phrase.
I'm not sure I'm ever going to see her as strong and stable. Like, she's like a wobbly table.